Hockey Night in Canada, After Hours.
Again, we're on the road to GM Place, one of the program's more familiar stages, as After Hours returns victorious from its cross-country tour of the final 5 communities for Kraft Hockeyville 08. No one was hurt, happy to say. Admittedly, we were a bit worried about being forgotten, but our confidence, Trevor, sort of peaked tonight as we heard cries of, hey, there's Bobby Rudy, and that guy echo throughout the building. That goes back to 6 weeks ago in Roberval, Quebec, when Kelly was introduced to the mayor of Roberval as Bobby Rudy.
You're just telling the story because I showed how bad a skater you are.
And I have no choice but to beat it to death for the next 2 years.
Yeah, you will enjoy that.
Yes. Your parents were here tonight. They came in for the game, which obviously underlined it as a special occasion. You saluted the fans at the start of the third period. It was very emotional at the end of the game. So your intentions seem clear. Are you prepared tonight to make it official?
Yeah, no, I really need some time, obviously. I think it's been an emotional week, and it's one of those things where I need to take some time and digest some things. Obviously, the fans' reaction was very special tonight, and that was much appreciated. But I do need some time to think some things over and talk to some people, and it's been a tough week.
What are some of the concerns you have? For instance, when I was going through it my last year in San Jose, some of the things that really popped up for me were that I thought I had to really work hard in practice to stay up with the young kids. Secondly, I thought that my level of play wasn't as good. Third, and probably the most important, is that the wins never felt as special anymore and the losses never hurt as much. Have you had thoughts like that?
Well, you know, those are a lot of thoughts, Kelly.
Yeah, I know.
But, you know, for me, I've always loved coming to the rink. I think I've enjoyed practicing. I've enjoyed the nuances of the game. I've enjoyed, you know, I enjoy looking at tape. So I enjoy the rink. I enjoy the guys. It's been a difficult year from a lot of different ways for our group. It's been frustrating, and certainly the end was very difficult. But you know, I think when you're in this game, you love the game, and you want to make sure that you take everything in and make sure you're in the right space.
Just saw a couple of shots of your parents. You said in the first period, you looked through the glass, and there were Lane and Edna being interviewed by some dolt from Hockey Night in
Canada.
Talking to you. Did that distract you at all? You were worried about what Lane might say?
Yes, I was very concerned. Although, from what I hear, we did a father's trip this year to Nashville and Minnesota. I hear Lane is much better with the media. He got scolded a few times early in the days. We're talking the late 80s when I was getting drafted and stuff, because we'd get reporters call the house, and he'd basically talk to him like he was the friend down the street. So some of these things would show up in the paper, and with 3 boys, he would hear about it from all angles. So he's got some media training from his boys. He's much better. So I don't trust him fully, but I heard he did okay tonight.
You know, the fans have loved you here, Trevor, since the day you were drafted in '89. But I guess the question is, did anything that happened here today surprise you, or were you expecting this sort of reception?
You know, I've been asked that question. Boy, look at that.
Oh, who's that?
Yeah, that's a very young Pat Quinn, and an even younger Trevor Linden. Yeah. That's a Montreal Forum. So I bought that suit. Who was the guy that sold suits? He'd chase you down the street. Remember
Why? Because did you pay him or what?
No. He'd chase you down the street to get you in the store, and then he'd like force you to buy the suit. Like, you're buying this, right? I forget his name.
I think I could only afford one suit and a half.
You know who I'm talking about, though. Yeah. Well, he'd be yelling down the street. You know what I mean? So the pressure. But you know, I was asked tonight. Why? How can you explain that?
Yeah.
And I said, you know, it's something that I can't explain. You know, I can't explain the relationship. I'm blessed. I feel very fortunate to be able to play in such a great city like Vancouver, and to be treated the way I am here. And I can't give you the details why.
Looking at those draft visuals, I obviously think back to the Brian Burke story, which he said in many ways defined you when you came here. And I know he's embellished it over the years, but I'm going to tell it.
It's definitely gotten better.
It's a Burke story, but I'm going to tell it again. '89, he was the assistant GM, and they were asking all the draft prospects or draft draftees, potential draftees, to come to Calgary for physical fitness testing, or to come to Vancouver, pardon me. And you phoned and said, Mr. Burke, I can't come. And he said, why not? And you said, because tomorrow is, what, branding day or whatever?
Yeah, it was,
and he said, well, what do you do? And you said, well, I hold the cattle down while they get castrated. And he said, oh, forget it, you don't have to come. Is there a tinge of reality in that?
There's a lot of reality. It was, actually, he tells it with a little more bluster.
Yeah.
But you did a good job, I have to say. You did a good job. But yeah, he's added some parts to it, which are just make it better. But the base of the story is true. It was June of '88, and he had set up this day for me to come to Vancouver, and I called him, and branding was something that the three of boys we always did. We'd kind of drag him out of the pile and hold him down, and my grandfather would have the branding irons, and my uncle would castrate and ear tag him and give him the inoculation and stuff. And so I asked him, I said, could I switch weekends? And he was like, yeah, no problem, that's fine. So it all worked out. So, but he enjoys that story.
You're obviously a really humble but genuine person. But losing is difficult, not making the playoffs is difficult, having the decision in front of you that you have right now. You're sitting here right now. Your thoughts more on what you have to decide, or your thoughts more on the team and the problems? I know how much effort and how much commitment that obviously the management and the coaches put into everything, and when things don't go the way you want, as a player you feel responsible, and I have the most respect for Dave Nonis, and he's a very bright hockey guy, and I know how tough it is, how tough this game is at times. So I feel for him and the management, and I know our coaches worked extremely hard. So that probably dominates my thoughts more than anything, because I know what those guys go through on a daily basis, and when your team doesn't get the job done, it's difficult. So that's probably more my focus.
Trevor, your style of play means that in the course of your 20-year career, you put a lot of miles on the odometer. How tough has it been for the face of the franchise to be in a role where you were a healthy scratch 24 times this season and playing a lot in the fourth line?
Yeah, I mean, that was, I said to myself before, Scott, the season started, that regardless of what happened, regardless of what situation I was in, that I was going to come to work every day and enjoy practice, support the guys, be a good teammate, not become an issue. I didn't know what was going to happen, so not playing is difficult, but at the same time, this game has been too good to me to be taken away from what the team was trying to accomplish. So at the same time, I wasn't happy about not playing, but I was trying to be as a good a teammate as I could. As you adapt. I think that through the course of the last few years, your role change, and you do whatever you can to help the team. So that's pretty much my focus.
I've always said I was the luckiest guy as well, because I grew up as a youngster in the Islanders organization, so I learned a lot of lessons from guys like Bossy and Potvin and Trottier and Smith, and the list goes on and on. Who are some of the people you've learned some great lessons from?
Well, I tell you, you said it. Playing this game is a huge privilege, and it's an amazing game, and I feel very fortunate to be in it as long as I have, and Stan Smeel doesn't say a lot, but he was always a man. We drove to the rink together my first year, and he was a guy that I learned a lot from. A guy like Garth Butcher, Harold Snips, Richie Sutter was a guy, Doug Lidster. Those guys, really kind of helped me along, and that's how like you said, that's where you kind of take your lead from.
Yeah.
Didn't Butcher sell you your first car?
That's
do I recall that?
Yeah. A 65 Mustang, exactly. I got to talk to him about that, too.
I'm going to take you can take him off the list now.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to push the envelope here in terms of time. Tim, do we have the Bob Cole call ready? Okay, go back to 1994 when you led the Canucks all the way to the Stanley Cup final and all the way to Game 7. Let's listen to Bob Cole's call of your performance in Game 7.
Puck is knocked to center, nearly a break. Linden, in there, scores! Trevor Linden on a terrific effort, scores a goal for Vancouver, and they're back in it, back to run, centered it. Here's Cardinal, score! Cardinal made the pass to Trevor Linden, and they get their power play goal, and again, the Vancouver Canucks are back in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and wasn't that neat to see Larry?
Yeah, you know what?
The late Larry.
That was a difficult time with Larry getting sick, and he was battling cancer at the time, and Bill Rochelle from the BC Lions was actually filling in a little bit, but Larry was there for Game 7. So, I mean, those, I think when you look back, I mean, for a kid growing up in Medicine Hat, dreaming of being a National Hockey League player, to be on Hockey Night in Canada and have someone like Bob Cole, you know, that's what every kid dreams of, so that's pretty special.
You had a lot of great moments after 1994, but whatever happens from this point on, if and when you make your retirement official, does the 94 run remain the highlight? The highlight?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think beating Toronto here in the Western Conference final was the highlight for sure. It was a special night. We came back. I think we're down 3-0. We came back to win, and it was a great night in Vancouver.
Trevor, thanks for your time. Great to have you on.
Thanks, Trevor.
Thanks, guys.
Trevor Linden says goodbye to the fans in Vancouver tonight, and perhaps for good. We await the official word somewhere down the road. More to come on After Hours in a moment.